Shalom. I want to start this off by giving honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Wahar Kakwadash. Peace and salutations to the elect men, starting with the elders of GMS on down, who diligently push forward the will and doctrine of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, day by day, according to the true understanding of the scriptures. To you I say Shalom. So, Lord, want this be, a fairly quick lesson. I just got some scriptures that came to mind upon, a meditation, which was basically just taking heed how you hear, and the title be basically along the lines of that, Salakia, really just being mindful of who you take counsel with, or who you take counsel from, right? Paying attention to the information that you're taking in, who you taking in from, paying attention, the people that you're taking information from. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily just the information, but also who. Because the Lord hears in all things, good and evil. As far as being able to see why this is bad, why not to do this, and why this is good, and why this is okay to do this. This is as an example, but nonetheless, right? You just want to be mindful of who you're involving yourself with, through your daily communications. You want to pay attention to who and what you're condoning, what you're allowing yourself to be caught up in the mix with, depending on who you surround yourself with and what you surround yourself with, because you see, this is an example as far as how people today, that's amongst the world, they just doom scroll and are constantly filling themselves, with brain rot, if you will, of random information, that they're not planning on doing nothing with, or if they seek out information, they're going about it the wrong way, to where they may get an increase where it looks like they're increasing, but yet it's to their demise because it's all set up in this world system, or they're pushing for you to deal with things that make you go backwards instead of going forwards, and moving forward is getting yourself right and getting yourself prepared for the things that are to come, especially the inheritance that's written for us to receive, with us taking heed and with us preparing ourselves, with us taking heed of this word, the true wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Yahweh being the Most High God, right? That's his true name in the Paleo Hebrew, And it's by the Spirit. There's two turtle doves in front of me. Yeah, crazy by the Spirit. There's three of them actually. But like I said, Yahweh being the Most High God's name in the ancient Hebrew, that's his true name, right? By Hashem being in the name, Yahweh Shai being who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but that's his true name in the ancient Hebrew, the holy tongue, right? The Lashawan Kodash. So jumping straight into this, I just got a few passages to read, and a few scriptures, to bring everything, full circle, if you will. So this is Proverbs 24, verse 1. It says, Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. It says, for their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief. You see? And the only way that you gonna really know who you dealing with is paying attention to who you dealing with, paying attention to their actions, what they get themselves involved with, Are they holding on to things of the world, or are they holding on to the things of the Lord, Just keeping it simple, but because there's a slew of ways that you can look into it, but nonetheless, that's, that is something that's important to pay attention to, It says, verse 3, through wisdom is a house builded, and by understanding it is established. You see, So you want to make sure that you hold on to wisdom, but the right wisdom, not the wisdom of this world, but the wisdom of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? It says, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. It says, a wise man is strong, yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. You see? It says, for by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there is safety. So you want to make sure that you not just going off of your own thoughts, or your own mind, or your own thoughts and feelings. You want to go off of the things that's been established by the Lord. We understand that the mind is desperately wicked. What it says in Jeremiah 17:9. It says what the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So you want to make sure that and that's you can even add Proverbs 3 and 5. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not on thy own understanding. If we're paraphrasing those scriptures. But those are things to be mindful of, to not hold to your just your train of thought, but the thoughts of men that's already been established. The men that hold to the Lord's word, including the Lord, right, and his word. You find that within the scriptures, but you go to the men that have been set up by the Lord, right, for counsel. Those are the counselors that you want to hold to, right? That's how you going to be able to build that safety. Going to the right men, right? Not men that are caught up in shit that's messy and things like that, are messy within themselves, and how they go on to speak and what they going to speak on. You want to tame your spiritual ear, or your spiritual ears, and not have itching ears, right? It's 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. It says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. You see? So that's something to that you can use as a tool to understand, who is an evil man or not. That ain't to say that, we not to utilize this world for our betterment. But those that get too caught up in the world and investing in the world, and putting all their eggs into the world, and leaning on this world, thinking that this world's gonna, be good, and pushing to others that you can you gonna be able to basically kick your feet back in this world. That's not the case. That's not what the Lord teaches us within the scriptures. That's not how this story goes. We understand we're not supposed to put all our eggs in this world's basket, if you will. We're not supposed to invest in this world. We're supposed to invest in the world to come. It says, verse 16, for all that is in the world, right, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes, these are all things that are worldly, carnal. It says, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. You see? It says, and the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. You see? So all these things are to pass away. So if somebody's trying to push to you that this place is gonna go on forever, like Esau Edom does, right? Or they cleaving on to his wisdom and knowledge, which is false wisdom and false knowledge. It's of the world, it's not of the Father. It says, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. You see? And that's going to be those elder men, men that are paying attention to how they speak and what they go on to teach, because they know this word, they know our people, they pay attention, You know what I'm saying? They've been given the spirit to be able to discern these things, you know? And they're not caught up in the things of the world. They're not caught up in just worldly pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And just being caught up in the flesh. The flesh is desperately wicked, you know? You got to build your spirit up 10 times, you know what I'm saying, more than the flesh is to have control over the flesh. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to be occupying your mind, occupying your time, and, you know what I'm saying, your attention, and what you condone with men that are like-mindedness of controlling the flesh through the spirit, through Yahweh Shema Shai spirit, through his blood, you know, like all things that's of the truth. You know what I'm saying? All things that push you to get closer to the Lord, you know? Building yourself up in the spirit, not in the flesh. You know what I'm saying? Being able to do both, but making sure that you know what I'm saying, understanding that what does it say in Timothy, right? Just to get that real quick. It's 1 Timothy 4:8, right? It's the bodily exercise scripture. It says, for bodily exercise profit little, but godliness is profitable unto all things. You see? That bodily exercise is you know, not only just as far as your body, your physical body itself, but also, you know what I'm saying, like the things of the world, right? Exercising those things. It profited, you know what I'm saying, but it profited little, you know? That godliness is what's going to profit unto all things, you know? Think about like Solomon, you know? He was the wisest and the richest man to have ever lived. You know what I'm saying? And still yet had moments of going off, but yet nonetheless, the reason why he was able to be in that position was due to the fact of what he asked for. He asked for wisdom, you know, for the Lord's wisdom. So that's the wisdom that you want to hold to, you know. And with all that he went through, he gained experience, you know. He gained the experience that he needed to be able to do and be better, you know, and help us to do and be better. So, you want to deal with those men that are doing the will of God, you know? This is Sirach 3 at verse 23, and the point is in verse 24. It says, be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are shewed unto thee than men understand. It says, for many are deceived by their own vain opinion, and an evil suspicion hath overthrown their judgment. You see, you shouldn't be trying to just go off of what you come up with within your mind, because your mind deceives you by telling you something that you think sound right. You know, you got a lot of people that don't intend to go off, you know what I'm saying, in their minds, but yet because they didn't counsel, yet because they weren't reading the scriptures yet, you know what I'm saying, they weren't dealing with the spirit how they needed to, going about receiving wisdom and dealing with wisdom the right way. You know what I'm saying? They went the fuck off. You know what I'm saying? How much more those that knew and chose should still go the fuck off? You know what I'm saying? Knew better, but chose not to. You know what I'm saying? Do better. Right? Your own vain opinion. That's why you aren't supposed to lean on your own heart. It's desperately wicked. Desperately wicked. You know? Deceitful above all things. That's something to be really mindful of. This is Sirach 6 and verse 6. It says, be in peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000. You see? And that's something to be mindful of too. How many people you go to, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that you got that one, you know what I'm saying, that one that's in the spirit. That way you not all over the place, because you got to understand, everybody got their own lives, their own spirits, you know what I'm saying, and their own way of being chastised, and you know what I'm saying, having their own tribulations, different ways that Satan fucking, you know what I'm saying, with each individual. So you want to make sure that you, again, paying attention to who it is that you listening to. Be mindful of who you take counsel with, you know, who you take counsel from. Pay attention to how they deal and how they interact. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that has a lot of discipline and being able to differentiate what conversations are meant to be had, you know what I'm saying, with a certain audience. You know what I'm saying? That's something that's very key. You know, that's a whole different level of emotional intelligence, if you will. You know, being able to regulate emotions well, to be able to get the point across, you know what I'm saying, in a slew of different ways. You know, those are just different examples of things, you know what I'm saying, I pay attention to, but nonetheless, you can too, you know, as far as who I what I consider, as far as, you know what I'm saying, when going to take counsel, who I take counsel from, you know what I'm saying. Ain't to say that's everybody's case, but nonetheless, those are good traits and qualities to pay attention to, you know. But jumping down, this is Sirach 6:32. It says, "My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught, and if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent." You see, applying your mind, you know what I'm saying, ain't just you sitting on your own thoughts. You know what I'm saying? It's good to meditate on your own thoughts, but that's good to do once you've been given counsel of the Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Once you've been fed with the Lord's, you know what I'm saying, word. You know what I'm saying? Through either his scriptures, or through the men that he set up and established. You know? That's why men have experience. That's why men go through things. So that way they have wisdom. They able to prove the Lord's word to be true. You know? Become even wiser. If you ain't never experienced nothing, how the hell you gonna be able to know what to do and how to do something? You know? That's why we aren't to be idle. That's why we aren't to just be sitting around not doing shit. You know? Excuse my French, but you know, it's just that. But continuing, it says, "And if thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent. If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding." You know, you gotta really want it. You gotta really want it and sincerely want it for the Lord to give it to you. It says, "And if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise." To bow your ear, you gotta be humble. You know what I'm saying? Shut the fuck up and just listen. You know, I be having to say that to myself. I be getting told that to myself, you know, by the men that I take counsel from, you know. But sometimes it's needed. Sometimes you need that reminder, you know. Sometimes that counsel, that wisdom come in the form of rebuke, you know what I'm saying, of being rude in speech, but yet not in knowledge, you know. And you gotta be willing to take that, because the Lord was an austere man, you know. Some are more built for it than others, but nonetheless, like, you want to make sure that you taking it from those spirits that's been set up from the Lord, you know. Those spiritual men, those elders, you know. Again, starting with the elders of GMS on down. But continuing, it says, verse 34, "Stand in the multitude of the elders, and cleave unto him that is wise." You see? Cleave unto him that is wise. "Be more willing to hear every godly discourse, and let not the parables of understanding escape thee." You know? The wisdom that's been given ain't to be taken lightly. The Lord not the Lord not having the fruit be planted, you know what I'm saying, for nobody to harvest it. And he not having it be harvested for it to not be given to not be used. You know what I'm saying? Everything has a purpose. The Lord's business has a purpose. You can't undermine any profession, any office within the Lord business. You know? So you want to make sure that you're not letting the wisdom when it's given escape you. You want to hold to it. Apply it. You know what I'm saying? Eat of it if you will. You know what I'm saying? Eat of that word, eat of the fruit. And sincerely do it so that way you can gain that increase. You know what I'm saying? When the Lord give it. But it says, and if thou seest a man of understanding, get thee betimes unto him, and let thy foot wear the steps of his door. You know? When you got something good, you know what I'm saying, you want to hold to it. You don't want to you don't want to let nothing spoil. You don't want to take nothing for granted. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's from the Lord. You know, how about Shemi, sir? Come on now. It says, let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. Meditate continually in his commandments. You see? Right? You see how the chain of events here is talking, right? When there's a discussion being had, it's of the spirit, you know what I'm saying, and things that's of wisdom, right? You want to hold to those things. You want to hear those things, hold on to them, you know, and meditate upon them, so that way you able to truly understand and eat of it how you are meant to. But it says, let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart, and give thee wisdom at thine own desire. You see? That's like closed mouths don't get fed, you know? You can't just be sitting around and expect to be growing. You're not moving. You're not doing nothing. You're not putting in the work to make these things happen, you know? So you got to make sure that you, again, being mindful of who you take counsel from, right? Making sure it's from the right source. And once you got that right source, don't take it for granted, you know? Don't bullshit with it. And this will be my last couple of verses. This is Sirach 37 verse 12. It says, but be continually with a godly man, right? Not no evil man, not no foolish man, not no worldly man, a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Lord. Somebody that's keeping the commandments of the Lord, not somebody that's keeping the commandments of what this world say, you know, that's just listening to the 48 laws of power, you know, but of the Lord, you know, the commandments of the Lord. Somebody that's holding to that, somebody that's teaching that, that's pushing that over everything, showing you how you can use that to maneuver through the world. Come on, man. It says, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. You see? Verse 16, it says, right, Sirach 37 to 16, it says, let reason go before every enterprise, and counsel before every action. Right? So you just want to make sure that you counseling, but you counseling in the right way, you know? And in the moments that you are to be taking counsel, take counsel. Don't bullshit nothing, you know? It's better to have done it than to not have done it, you know? When two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them, you know? By 2 or 3 witnesses shall every matter be established. You just want to make sure you double down, you know? However, whenever, you know? But especially in the moments when it's needed. And that in itself is wisdom, so don't take that lightly. You know, don't undermine that. Taking counsel when it's needed to be taking counsel, and making sure that you counsel before every action. You know? We're not meant to be tossed to and fro, be pulled to and fro throughout the earth. You know? We not to be set up and founded in the sand. We meant to be founded on that rock. So we can't be moved, you know? And that's really the point. So, Lord willing, this has been edifying. Again, like I said, right? Take heed, therefore, how you hear. Be mindful of who you take counsel with and from. So with that, I'm going to say, call Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Wahawah Kakwadash. Till next time, Shalom.